Hello. Welcome to the family card table, week number 2. We're having such fun growing this and learning how to do all the parts. So, welcome to today. My name is Madeline Groisha, and this is a great opportunity to give you guys awareness around these cards and the way they can work to harmonize our families. Each one of the people involved has so many special gifts and unique gifts. And if you want to learn more about where it all is, it's thefamilycardtable.com. But today is our live show, and we're going to include the same that we did last week. We're going to all say hello, get a little theme of awareness, talk to the cards a little bit, have a guest this time, and talk about patterns and families. So, welcome everybody. Nice to see you today.
Hi, everybody.
Hey, everybody.
so one of my big awarenesses this week has been how mean, I don't know, how harsh I can be on innocence and true emotions with people, because I have found that when somebody's really emotional, it feels manipulative sometimes, but sometimes the person's actually really emotional. Do you know what I mean? Like something's
What's
happening.
fascinating, Groisha, is that it's a 2 of diamonds week, and that's your Mars card.
There you go. So help the audience know what that means. I mean, Gina does that like she just solved the Rubik's Cube, and everyone's like, what the heck does that mean? So...
But it just brings it into, like, it's like, oh, that's Mars. Mars isn't there is passion behind it, but there can be frustration, there can be anger. And with 2s, I feel like, there's sometimes elements of, remember, it can be a mirroring energy, but at the same time too, the 2s are about dealing with other people, and a lot of times when there's 2s in Mars, and because I have a 2 in Mars and a 2 in Pluto, so there's elements of control and power, or giving those away, or even feeling like that's being implemented onto you as well. So, I think that's just fascinating that you said that. And I'm like, it's a 2 of diamonds week. It's your Mars card. So it would kind of make sense to me.
Yeah, and that's the stuff that really makes me trust the cards. As much as talking to all of you has made me really a lot smarter and things, the more I'm aware of my intuition and how it lines up, and I just see it all the time, like, my golly, like I'm not totally driving the bus. I'm being informed all the time, and how I respond is actually all there is how you respond. Right? So with the awareness of it, I just started to watch emotions a little differently. I had like a very different perspective this week than I've had in quite some time, because I saw patterns vividly. And I saw how as soon as there was an increase in the vulnerability, there was a low grade to high activation of the victim energy, and how the vulnerability and the victim energy were interacting. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. Why would somebody being naturally vulnerable, like we are vulnerable by just nature, right? Like we're flesh and blood, right? Why would the feeling of vulnerability call to a victim? And it's because of the same reason when I'm going to market things, people say, you have to hit the pain body points. You have to go out there and talk about what they really need, and then they'll want to come. And I'm like, why are we using pain and like victimhood and poor you? We know it sucks. Let's make it better. It's like, you got cards, you got a hand, you got astrology. You might be in a part of it that's not going to be pretty, but there'll be another part that is pretty. I've lived through some bumps, but when I look ahead, I've got a nice ride coming. So I did the work, so I've been really considering how victimhood and vulnerability and the use of emotion for the pliability of another is sticky. That's sticky waters, that's really hard to feel like you can say your boundaries. Because you all know that for my 60th birthday, I decided to give myself boundaries, like out loud, and to talk about them more and really mean them. It's empowering as heck, and people are treating me different. But when people give me those emotions, I get triggered. So I got a little passion on this. Obviously, I've been in the laboratory on these topics. So curious about any reflections from the group.
Well, this in astrology, the Pluto's opposite Venus right now, and it can bring up a lot of relational dynamics. And so I think in general, to some degree or another, I'm sure everyone in some way, large or small, might be moving through some relationship dynamics, particularly related to expressing your authentic self, but also with Venus and Leo, but it's opposing Pluto and Aquarius. So there's also this idea of, can I share my true self? You know, the pressures of conformity, to the fears of looking weird, you know, all this stuff energetically is in the sort of cosmic soup. And of course, the cards are always echoing astrology, whatever. And this is one of the most, to me, one of the most fascinating things is that, as far as I'm concerned, all of these different esoteric systems of deeper understanding and archetypes, they echo each other. And so no matter what system you're looking into, that you'll see similarities of some of the energetic signatures we're moving through. And I think what's really important with the cards, with astrology, is that it doesn't necessarily speak to what will happen in life, but it speaks to the types of questions you're going to have to look at, the types of things you'll have to navigate in your inner life, not necessarily your outer life, but you know, the world of archetypes. And it's all about the inner journey through this external, seemingly external world, which is, you know, another whole topic. But I just wanted to share that in terms of these emotions, Pluto, relationships, feeling confronted in some way or another, with regards to expressing yourself, or with regards to the pressures of conformity. These are all sort of, at least from my perspective, a part of this soup that we're moving through right now.
And Rob, wouldn't you say too, since I know Venus just moved into Leo yesterday, but prior to that, it was at the 29th degree of Cancer, and it would be trining Neptune at 29 degrees in Pisces, right? So that could have been bringing
Still
up the
is.
victim,
Yep.
victim mentality, the emotional, the overwhelming. That's a lot of water, right? And so
Right.
that may have been, and then the shift from Venus out of water into fire now makes us want to like da 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 da, you know. Here I come with all my
Celebrate self. Yeah.
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 So that last
Yeah.
few days compared to that shift with that 29 degrees and then Neptune being there as well, I think that may have bubbled up for everybody collectively, the victim mentality or just the overwhelming of feelings, and dealing with others in our more intimate relationships too.
Yeah, it's a good point. And you know, with Venus trining Neptune, the sensitivity and
Yeah.
Intuitive pickups of energies in your closest relationships, you know, all that stuff, it's sort of there. Yeah, it's a really good point.
Donnie, have any reflection on that topic?
Yeah, I think that's a great example of how, you know, transits are affecting us in real time. And I like to use the card of the day too, just like a transit, to look at the energy of the day. So today's date is associated with a 3 of diamond, and a 3 of diamond is like vacillating values. And I completely experienced that energy today, with being pulled in different directions, and unexpected things kind of happening that was pulling me one way that I would have to, like, kind of like fires to put out. Even like my husband was supposed to fly home today, and his flight was delayed. He missed his connection, and so he's stuck in Detroit. And so I'm having to kind of like shift and make changes, you know, in my day because of that. So there's a lot to be said, not only about the astrology transits Rob talked about, but just the transits of the cards that we experience from day to day.
You know what I think is so fascinating about this is, well, if it does become in our consciousness to recognize that, in fact, we are being, infused, experiencing energies, transits, card energies, like it's really going to become so much about how do I respond and stay clear, stay true, stay focused, whatever the preference is. I want to say stay present, right? Because the present moment seems to be where everything can be reconciled for the oneness that is us, right? And when we're in the narratives and the stories, we're growing almost like energetic things, like entities or whatever you want to call, of stories that we hold so dear that they become the lens of what we see. We see through fear, right? We see through our story. So to me, to get to strip it to where it's like, well, it's this kind of day and you're going to have this kind of stuff. And your job is to roll with it and be true and communicate honestly and make boundaries when you need to, like to keep it that simple. It almost takes all of the drama out, right? And so much of what people do in life is drama.
Well, we don't, I feel like you don't resist it, because if you're aware of it, like Donna said, it's 3 of Diamonds Day. And that's part of her spread naturally. So for her, knowing that there's, rather than getting, yeah, it can be frustrating, but I think that's where you choose, am I going to stay frustrated? What can I do about it? You know what I mean? I can allow it to happen. She can try a different avenue, a different approach, like those threes need to, or, go with the flow of things. Because the same thing, like when you have a 5, you just almost got to know that something's going to change that day. And if just knowing that it's a 5 day, you embrace it rather than resist it. You know what I mean? You go with the flow rather than kind of, push against it, or what I call like going, against the current, which then can be exhausting and even more frustrating if you just understand, oh, it's a 5. Let me just kind of float down that river and it'll bounce me where I need to go, because it eventually is going to lead you exactly where you need to be. You got to trust in that process. You got to trust in that pivot. You got to trust in that change is trying to bring forth, and you don't resist it as much. And then it becomes more peaceful rather than frustrating, and you're discombobulated now because your plans change.
Yeah. And I also like to leverage the higher expressions of the cards, because what you're talking about, Madeline, is free will. You take in this energy and then you get to manifest it in a higher form or a lower form. Mm-hmm. So for example, if it's a 3 of club day, or I'm experiencing 3 of club energy in a given time period, the lower expression is stress and anxiety. But if I see that energy coming up, I'm a writer. So I try to leverage the energy of my writing and spend more time doing that, or engaging in creative expression in some other form. And I find that that's really helpful for me.
Yeah. And the other part is that the complaining that people do, or the judging of another, in my experience of growing as a human and watching others, we seem to develop personalities or concepts that we get, I guess, almost attached to. Like there's a perfect version that people get of themselves. And sometimes you created it from all the different things that came in, and you're like, I've got to be like this. And then when you're not like that, you're sinking into those lower expressions because you have this idea that you've got to be a certain way. But think about it. Your weather's changing all the time. The only idea is that you stay clear. Like the other stuff, you really don't know. Like it's going to happen. So I think the idea of ourselves plays in. And then the way we use our voice to complain or talk about another, like, I was listening to Eckhart Tolle today because I really love the present moment. I've really been into that a lot in my thoughts lately, how that's my home base and I want to get better at it. So while I was in my quiet, I was listening, and I heard him say that when we make those comments about somebody else, that's our ego doing that. Like we're trying to make ourselves feel better than the other person. I'm like, it's so true. And like, I was like, why do they do that? What's wrong with them? It's like, what does it have anything to do with you? Why are you talking about that? Why are you judging that? Why are you using that to determine if you're something? So I think it's a really different experience to imagine meeting the day like the weather and being able to respond to it integrated and whole, and knowing that you drank enough, slept enough, ate enough, that you can be trusted. So that's a nice opening. Anyone else have anything that they've had come on this week or any thoughts about it? Because that seems like it definitely covers our greetings and tone setting. And then we could move into the cards if we want to, or if there's anything else that people want to bring to what's been coming up in their thoughts and hearts and minds.
No, I think that was great. You know, when you talked about it and, you know, it being your Mars card for the week, naturally, you know, it really is. It just shows it, you know, one, the energies don't lie, the cards don't lie, the astrological stuff doesn't lie. And not that I say it's, you know, a lie, you know, but it really is a line as above, so below, right? We're just experiencing this, you know, in real time, these transits. And again, I tell this to my clients all the time, how I may handle a two and how you may handle a two, or like Donna with the, you know, that three of clubs. I know I see that card coming, and that's actually my daily card tomorrow. And I've already, and even though it's tomorrow for me, that's it out all week. I've gone back with, you know, going over certain things. Should I do it this way? Should I go? Not go? And I teeter, you know, back and forth with making a decision. Get three of clubs. So it's just, you know, that's what these things do. They really do teach us, guide us, and, you know, the energies are going to play out whether you are participating or not. I think, and, you know, like Donna said, you can, that's where free will comes in. You choose to either, you know, operate, you know, operate to the higher side of that card. And sometimes, you know, you'll experience both in one day. You may kind of come, you know, there can be a little worry and stress with that three of clubs, but you can stop and say, you know what? Let me move this energy. Let me, instead of stressing about something, I tell people with that three, move your body. You got to have an outlet for it. So with three of clubs, it is the writing, you know, expressing yourself in some way is beneficial. So when you are aware of these energies, you may, you know, in one moment you can experience the high and a low, but then at that point you get to choose, where am I going to, you know, move from at that point, I think. And that's what makes this so beautiful.
Let's think of a good question to ask the cards. Like, we can do what we did last time to do like a parent and a child and consider like that. And that's fine for today. But what I just flashed on, and while you were talking, as you were talking about the energies, is like, ask the cards, ask the questions. And I'm like, ask what questions? So I'm just telling you what I heard. Ask the questions of the cards. So what kind of shuffle shall we ask Donna to do today, as far as our focus on what the cards might tell us about how they work together better and what we can help people understand about them? Any intuitions or thoughts on that?
Well, how about, because it's a three of diamond day, there could be different values, different perspectives. So what are the different perspectives of this family that we're going to pull the cards for?
That sounds great. I was thinking along those lines too. I love that, Donna. That sounds great. So then the perspectives and becoming like shared values, right? Because we're recognizing that the more we can kind of align, then everybody can be more allowed to grow. Whereas if we're battling over what's true or not true, then everybody's stuck in the mud, right?
Right.
Sure. Let's shuffle up. That sounds like a great one.
All right.
How to manage perspectives.
Yeah. So this segment we call the family card pull. And the way that this works is that I'm going to take an actual deck of playing cards and I'm going to shuffle them. And I'm going to invite the wisdom of the playing cards to reveal what we need to learn today, to be our teacher, if you will. After I shuffle the cards, I'm going to cut the deck, and then I'm going to draw 3 cards. The first card will represent the birth card energy of a mother. The second card, the birth card of the father. And then the third card, the birth card of a child. And then we can talk about the different perspectives and the energies of the different cards and family dynamics. So let me get to my shuffling.
I feel like we have to have some type of like ding. I'm gonna have to go get my like like I'll see if I can find them. I'll be right.
Okay. So this is what I pulled. First, the card of the mother. It's a 10 of diamond. The card of the father is a 2 of spade. Ooh, there you go. And last but not least, the card of the child is a 6 of club.
Oh, they're gonna find that middle.
Oh, that's interesting. So the first thing that comes to me when I look at these cards is that the 10 of diamond of the mother, that's a highly ambitious card energy. It's basically called the accomplishment and money and values card. They're highly driven individuals. They have this one energy. And so if they set goals, they just like go for them. So they have very high expectations of themselves. They may also, as a parent, have high expectations of their children. And then you've got this 6 of club child, and that's a very different energy. The perspective of that child is going to be very different. That is not going to be as highly driven kind of an energy. In fact, 6 of clubs tend to have their own pace in how they approach things in life. This is a child who can just be really, they're as young children, they really tend to be calm and easygoing. They can like sit and play in the dirt with cars for a really long time and be happy. I mean, that kind of an energy. But they're also, I call that card the procrastinator card. So this is a child, particularly when they're in adolescence, who will struggle with procrastination. And if you have this 10 of diamond, high achieving mom, and then all of a sudden you've got this child who is like not doing their chores on time, waiting for the last minute to do homework and assignments, procrastinating about so many different things, there can be a struggle. And since we're talking about perspectives, what is important in life will be very different from each of these persons' perspectives, because the 10 is going to is all focused on the goals, the end goal, whereas a 6 card energy, their perspective is more about the process. So I invite the rest of you to speak to these cards.
It's got everybody thinking. I like that. Everyone's in it like, because now the 2 of spades, that's the connector, right? And so the disconnection between the 6 and the 10 is going to be a struggle for the 2, right? And then that is simply values, right? There's nothing wrong with the 6 wanting to go slow and go from the inside out. It's a natural way. And the 10's got so much energy, Jupiter, like, we got to go. I got to use it, And the 2 of spades is like, we got to make sure we're safe and we're connected and we're networking and we're talking to everyone, So their values would really have to come to some type of a, what's our value? Like, what's more important than any of the ways that we're being taken by our energies, right? Because not to say that the 6 should stop being a 6 or the 10 a 10, but what would bring them to a middle, right? What would bring mutual respect? What do you think, Gina or Rob? Any thoughts?
Go ahead, Gina.
Well, I think too, that 6 of clubs can teach both of those cards patience, because the 6s, like Donna said, they don't move. They move in their own time. They're not very quick, and they're meant to kind of sit with themselves. They're meant to really trust that intuition. They're very intuitive. They are the messenger card. I know the 2 of spades and the 6 of clubs are karmically connected as well. So, they and 2s and 6s can be like a mirror energy, right? So that 10 of diamonds can learn a lot of, being able to kind of take time, embrace different things, rather than, because sometimes the 10 of diamonds will take center stage, right? It sits center mass, it sits Jupiter, right? And so I think there's, with the 2 of spades being like in the middle, it's the connector, and being able to connect the 2 you know, almost being a mediator, because I bet you that 10 of diamonds could get a little impatient with the slow moving 6 of clubs, right? And that too kind of brings them together, you know, in a copacetic, harmonious way of balancing each other, you know, and really teaching that 10 of diamonds to appreciate a moment in the slow down, and really enjoy the expansion that can happen with that energy. So yeah.
Yeah,
You know, I
you know what? Go ahead, Gurisha.
no, go.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, you know, it's interesting when you see a family of different modalities, you know, clubs, spades, diamonds. Um, and I think it can be helpful to acknowledge that they're all coming from a different sort of space in some ways. Sometimes that can be a helpful organizational way of thinking about it. But the other thing is that these are all even cards, and so in some respect, there's also a similarity amongst these people in their journey, in that, you know, stability, having a solid foundation, like all these things are generally similar for all of them. Um, you know, I looked briefly on my quick math, so apologies if this is completely wrong, but their combined card is a 5 of spades, which is quite different. I mean, 5 of spades is saying that, look, you know, this. So again, what I did was basically combine the 10 of diamonds, the 2 of spades, the 6 of clubs, their energetic value, and together, based on this quick math, is the 5 of spades, which suggests that as a unit, there's something about change. There's something about being flexible. There's something about, you know, keeping it moving, whether that's trips or changing the daily routines, being involved in movement, and not feeling, you know, not getting stuck in ruts is going to be an important part of this journey. Yeah, that's what I wanted to share. The other thing, real
I
quick,
think
was
there are 6 of
yeah,
spades. I think there are
is
6 of spades. Let's do it.
could
So
be, yeah,
so the 2 of spades is what, 41 or
yeah,
42? Oh, you're
41,
right. It is the 5 of spades. You're
5
right.
of spades. Okay, yeah, half the time I
It
get this
makes
right,
so
half
much
the time I
sense
get it
that it
wrong.
would work like that. No, it makes so much sense that it would work like that. And it also would also come down to not holding judgment for somebody being different than the way you are, and finding out what works for everybody. Like how Donna talked about with like knowing the energy of her son or knowing the energy of a child in a class, you come up with ways that everybody kind of wins. And it doesn't lean towards, oh, we always got to do what the 10 of diamonds wants, and then resentment grows, and then they're not really inspired to grow because they're kind of working for someone else's reality instead of a shared. I love the 5. That's such a wise way that you would use that energy too, to keep busy, to keep moving, to not get stuck. It'd be good for everybody involved. Very cool. Well, that was a wise reading today. I love when the cards tell us stuff. That was good. Anything else on that before we continue? Did anyone else want to talk about the cards that came or what that could mean?
Yeah, I want to add one more thing. So the 10 of diamond mom is really going to want this child, or have the expectation of that child to achieve in life. And so maybe the 2 of spade dad kind of being the middle person, if you will, in that energy, could be in a position to remind the mother that there's so many valuable kinds of careers that the personality traits and energy of a 6 of club could align with. So as an example, like an emergency responder, would you want to have emergency responder person be like overly dramatic and not calm and not like, in the moment using their intuition, right? So there's, even though each card has like a low expression, there's also that higher expression of these cards too that we can't forget.
And I think there's also the way that you can recognize that there's an intuition in this card. Let's talk to them about what they intuitively think about what's going on. Like there's a natural gift that wants to be developed here. Oh, resources are going to come naturally to the 10. Let's hear what they're noticing in their resource world, because that's a natural thing that happens for tens. They'll need to discern because there's a lot of energy and they can get overly excited and lose their clarity. So then that too, in that safe space and that connection might support that clarity so that you can move with the maturity that the two of spades would bring to the relations. So isn't that interesting? Because if you were thinking of these things like, well, Aunt Betty this and so this and Johnny this, we'd have all these charges around what we'd be talking about based on that time we saw Uncle Johnny do blank, 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 you know? But when you think of it as just energies that are coming together to create some type of alchemy, I just find it very liberating. I really do. I think it's a very liberating way to consider what might be happening in this life classroom we're living. For sure. Very nice. So, well, do we want to touch on any patterns? Like I know, Jeannie, you wrote in the two spades and the six of clubs. And I think that's a way that we can maybe mention how sometimes people kind of travel together, that's been noticeable. Maybe we could touch on that pattern today a little bit, because I know that's what we have on the itinerary. We like to bring in patterns when we speak to y'all. So,
Okay, I couldn't unmute the mic now. Can you hear me? Okay, yeah.
okay, yeah.
Yeah, actually, it's interesting. I couple people I saw posts like they were wishing someone a happy birthday, and every single time the first thing I'm going to do is what's that card? What's the card? What's the card? And so I've seen lately that the birth card of the person, like a lot of times with children, if we're talking about families, you'll see a lot like the parent's birth card. The child is the transformation card to the parent, or the challenging karma card, or the supporting karma card. And I'm very like there are specific cards that absolutely travel together. And I've even, people I've talked to, oh, my dad is the 10 of clubs and my mom was this card. I'm like, wait a minute, my mom was the 10 of clubs and my dad is that card. So it different genders, right? But the same card, and they do travel together. And that's one of the best things about learning this is seeing those patterns, seeing the cards that are, and you see it more often than not. Like it's a lot of times. And so that's always how my brain is. It's like someone posts on social media, happy birthday to this person, the first thing I'm looking at, oh, okay, their card is this. Wait a minute. It was just the other day. My friend posted a happy birthday to his daughter. His daughter was born on 4 of Diamonds Day, which was yesterday. And he's the 3 of Spades. And the transformation to the 3 of Spades is the 4 of Diamonds. So you'll see that a lot, that there is a lot of times that your child or your family members, another instant on that same day, I know the someone I know, he's a 4 of Diamonds. And his sister is a Queen of Hearts, so they have a Saturn connection. You see that a lot. So it's just really fascinating to kind of see these cards that travel together, and it just makes you know that you're meant to kind of you're right where you're supposed to be with the right people that are supposed to be in your life.
Yeah, very, very much. I agree 1,000,000%. Rob, let's just stay on one piece of it. I continue to be conscious of the fact that for many people, some of this is so different than where their brain goes. But let's say where Gina said, like, say somebody's your Saturn card, right? When you think about that as an evolutionary astrologer, what would it mean to you to consider somebody being your Saturn card?
Yeah, that's a good one. I mean, when I think of Saturn in astrology and the cards, Saturn is, how some athletes train underwater. When you're running underwater, there's more resistance. There's more. One could argue, say, like, hey, well, it's harder to do that at times. Whether it's harder or not is sort of immaterial. It's like there's something to gain by walking underwater, by running underwater. And with Saturn, we're learning to take right action. We're learning to have self-dignity, self-respect. And there's something, whether that's a Saturn card, it's something that we're having to work on And if someone's our Saturn card from the evolutionary perspective, it's sort of saying like, yeah, this kind of touches on a place where there's a place where I'm growing and have to overcome some challenges and level up my maturity. And so that's the way I see, when someone's your Saturn card, that's oftentimes, that can show up in families as well. I see that one quite a bit, even marriage,
definitely.
it's not a bad thing. We hear Saturn, there's all this, bad press on Saturn, but the reality is, like, if it wasn't for Saturn, we'd all be adolescents and, playing games all day. Like Saturn,
it really does make you grow up. It's a pull-up. Saturn's a pull-up. I will definitely say that.
Right. Yeah. Anyone
And
else?
it's funny, Rob, my daughter's the youngest, her Saturn card is her older sister. So my youngest is the Ace of Clubs and my oldest is the Ace of Spades. The Saturn card to the Ace of Clubs is the Ace of Spades. So I'm literally living this and I see it, and I'm telling you, her older sister is more like a father than her own father. I mean, you can't, like, my older daughter will not let her get away with any, like, she is so on her. It's hilarious. And I even jokingly say, oh, I won't call your dad. I'm going to call your sister when you start acting up, because I know your sister. And there's such my younger daughter, even though they have a big gap in their ages, but you can see she looks up to her. She's watched her, and most of you know my older daughter plays basketball. And at one point, the younger one, just because big sis was doing it, was trying to learn basketball, was getting into it as well. So it's really interesting to watch that dynamic. And you do find a lot of siblings I've seen have that Saturn connection.
So, full disclosure here, my direct Saturn card in the life spread is my husband's card.
Oh, wow.
So, he's here to teach me. He's here to teach me to tap into my vulnerability, which doesn't come naturally to me because my birth card is a Queen of Club. My planetary ruling card is a Ten of Spade. I don't have that heart energy. And he reminds me of the heart and the emotional components of everything, of how to communicate with people, how to manage people. It's just great. But I agree with Rob too, where he said, Saturn gets a bad rap. But let's not forget too that Saturn is also about commitment. And the one thing that I have from my husband too is strong commitment. And I feel that every day that I have that commitment, and that's definitely a positive thing.
And a lot of times people, when it comes to relationships, like you said, Saturn gets a bad rap. And, oh, you have a Saturn. What do you mean? Saturn is longevity. Saturn is in for the long haul. Saturn is the commitment. But again, you're going to work for it. You probably have had to, he's like you said, teaching you something. And I think that, especially being the Queen of Clubs that you are, like, some books say it's a challenging relationship card. I didn't like what I used to read about that card, just that they put that on it. And I think that, like I said, I've seen Queen of Clubs who've had marriages that have lasted, but I think it does require the right energy to kind of uplift that card. And I think that's good that it's your husband is the Saturn card, because like you said, you're learning something, and there is that essence of committing, because you do have a 5 as Venus. So sometimes there's that, I want to run. I want to bounce, right? But he requires the commitment. It requires the time. It requires the discipline, and it requires the work that Saturn is asked. And that's the beauty about Saturn. Saturn will reward you when you do the work, when you commit to something. So there you have it.
Well, I just got all these strings hanging that come together with what you're saying, because, my son's an 8 of Clubs. He's my Saturn card, and his brother's a 2 of Diamonds with an 8 of Clubs. So I've gotten my classroom really strong there. But that part about the Queen of Clubs and the relationships, that's a really big piece of coming into this table of the cards. It's very easy, just like when you think you know something and you think you know what a bird is because you heard this and you just repeat that. These are very unique energies that play out differently in different people for the purpose of alchemy. So it's important to be as neutral as you can and understand there is high and low sides of everything. And the other part that came to me is that the gentleman who's waiting, who's going to come to the stage, who's going to let us all kind of investigate his card and talk more about maybe what he learned in his alchemy and family. We've already discussed that he could have been a queen of club or a jack of clubs. So it's nice how the universe just keeps the ball moving. I just love that part. So is there anything else you guys want to share about patterns or Saturn before we invite up our guest to talk a little bit about what the cards and the family card table could give him for awareness and just see what happens, right? We're really doing this in a somewhat organic way, right? Anyone have anything before we invite Tracy? All right. We should really have songs that play for people when they come in. You know, I'm going to have to work on that. That would be a lot more fun. Like, I can't just, we got to make this a little bit more fun. But hi, Tracy. I don't know what song I'll sing for you, but thank you. Welcome. Oh, we can't hear you. Hold on. There you go. Now we can hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, how you guys doing?
Hello, welcome. Thanks for giving us your information. So we have Rob here, who's an evolutionary astrologer, and Donna, who's also a cardologer and a former teacher and educator, wrote a book about the cards. Gina, who makes magical stuff to make your joints not hurt and gives card readings and teaches the cards. And we're so excited to have you come to the table today so we can talk a little bit about your numbers and what it's like for you to be you.
Okay.
Thanks. So do you know anything about cards?
Nothing. I don't play games. I don't play cards. I didn't play Monopoly. It's a strange thing. I never really played cards. And I lived in Vegas most of my life.
Wow, we got a real fun one here. All right. So you don't know anything about cards. Have you ever heard of cardology?
I never heard of cardology till today. I mean, I can, assume what it is, but I've never heard of it, actually. I didn't know that the cards held information.
Oh, nice. So do you have any questions? I mean, I hear a wind, so I'm not sure what it is. So I guess if we're not speaking, we can turn off our mics. But I can hear. I just hear back stuff.
I think that's me because it's like crazy hot. I don't know if it's hot where you guys are.
Okay, that's fine.
Let me turn this one off. No, I'll turn it off.
Yeah, it's a little hard. I don't want it to not hear you guys.
How's that? That should be better.
It is much clearer. Thank you very much.
No, it's quite all right.
I'll
suffer for knowledge.
Nice. All right. So then, how do you all feel about what you heard so far? It knows nothing about cards. Like, there's kind of nothing to build on. It's a pretty blank slate. How do you want to help this person learn about the cards? They're new at our table. So, I mean, well, first I'll just tell you and anybody who's listening, there is a way to learn a lot about this stuff at this website that we worked on and put together lots of cool packages and stuff at thefamilycardtable.com. And that's definitely something that could give you more to go on. And what we're doing today is we invited Tracy so we could talk about it and use his information. So Rob got the information and we all got the information, and we can talk about what his card is. So I'm curious now that you're here. He never played games and stuff like that. I feel like that queen has to be more of it than the jack, because I'd be surprised if a jack didn't play cards.
Yeah, so jack of club. The first word I think of a jack of club is mischievous. And someone who has the gift of gab, like Oprah Winfrey is a jack of club, has total gift of gab. So if that doesn't resonate with you, Tracy, then maybe Gorisha's right. You're maybe.
I haven't even said nothing.
Are you mischievous though? Did you try and talk your parents out of getting in trouble, like that kind of energy?
Yeah, I've been called that before. The voice, mouth. So yes, I grew up in Baltimore, and I grew up in the 70s. It was still kind of dangerous, and I'm not a big man, so I developed other ways to distract foes, and it was through intellect. And so by the time they recognized what happened, I was, usually down the street or something like that. So that's where that comes from. You know what I mean? That kind of being able to talk. And my father is
And
an
now,
entertainer. He's a singer. So he's been singing since before I was born. And so he's a showman. So I witnessed that. And my mom was a poet. So they were
mm.
entertainers.
And what you said was really powerful with the Jack of Clubs is it is you fight with your words, right? And the Jack of Clubs is like being able, like your words are your superpower. You're here to revolutionize the thought process and how you use your mind, and you're probably much faster at processing information than most. And maybe people, like you said, you were already gone and there's probably still trying to figure out what you said. You know what I mean? Because you've already expressed it and bounced, right? That's a
Yeah.
big part of that Jack of Clubs. It's a very creative card. That's the Jacks are very creative, very playful, very childlike. And again, the way you word things, the way there's an essence of storytelling with that Jack of Clubs, and it's like flowetry, right? With the Jack of Clubs, so it's a brilliant energy, and they usually tend to be very friendly, everybody's friend. And but at the same time with that Jack, you never know what you're going to get. I always say, my little saying about the Jacks is they can go from the Waffle House to the White House all in the same day. You can fit into a room. Yeah, huh?
Oh, that's funny.
You know how to fit into a room. You can read the room and be like, all right, and it's chameleon like. You can switch it on and off, and you can read the room and you adapt, and then you make the best of it.
Well, I'm curious as a child of two Jack of Clubs.
That's very true. Extremely.
Go ahead, Tracy. Go ahead.
I think we have a delay. So don't worry, we're going to be talking over each other, but it's okay. I'm going to listen.
No, say what you were going to say. We want you to talk, not me. You hear me talk all the time.
I was going to say that because we have shadows as well, and that can be isolating. So I find that is an isolation factor for me. The constant thinking and ideation. So constantly having ideas could be a problem, or it can be an energy. And I do it in the physical realm, through push-ups or through working out and things like that. And I really try to stay cohesive with my thought patterns. And so I use AI a lot now to my goal is to dig down to like the quantum level of interaction, because I think that here in 2024 and beyond, the information is so new and it's coming so fast, and we have this new super intelligence in our midst. And I feel as though we have to rise to its level as much as possible. We can never do that, but I think it's the ideal teach, learn scenario, teaching and learning simultaneously. And so I try to really draw out the essence of each moment. And I do that through calculation and through mathematics and through quantum physics. And I'm not a quantum physicist, but I'm just telling you where ideation will take you. And luckily, there's AI to sort of be a repository where you could just throw all this stuff and it makes sense of it for you. So I think that definitely go off the rails if we want to kind of get into a person's shadows or things that can be fine-tuned a little bit. Does that make sense what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you sit on a Uranus placement too, so that using technology, using AI is very Jack of Clubs. They're more advanced than most, and your ideas and your thought process is usually further ahead than most. And sometimes there can be isolation because others are still trying to keep up with where you've already gone ahead. So, but you're here to initiate higher thoughts.
Yeah.
You're here to bring people to higher levels of communications, information, knowledge, and and kind of level up even more to the superpower of the brain and the mind, and the way you communicate with others.
Yeah, I also want to.
I'll give you.
I was just going to say.
Go ahead, Rob. Great, thanks.
Okay. Yeah. No, I was just going to say, because of your time of birth, you're right on the cusp of the Jack of Clubs and the Queen of Clubs. But looking at your birth chart in astrology, it definitely echoes a Jack of Clubs. In that you have Pluto in the third house, a natural psychologist, a natural private detective, like someone that gets to the bottom of something. And it's also interesting. You have a loaded third house. So my guess is you have quite a number of siblings. There might be some really engaged conversations with these siblings. Um, um, and that sort of thing. But we can talk more about the astrological side in a few moments. But I just wanted to echo the fact that the Jack of Clubs, it does seem that in your case, the Jack of Clubs energy makes a lot of sense. I mean, you'd be your voice and your message, you're a messenger. And I'm guessing that a lot of your life, when your message is heard, you're feeling empowered. When it's not heard or disregarded, there Tracy is with the answer to the problem. He knows how to fix the problem. Others, when they don't recognize that could be triggering. I'm guessing, and some of the triggering moments of your life might be related to those types of things.
So Tracy,
Well,
when you hear them
this is
talk,
true.
okay, I was just gonna say, when you hear them talk about these things, do they ring as true? So yeah, please go ahead.
They ring true 100%. It's pretty uncanny, to be quite honest. And I know there's probably different ways to get to the same information, and that's what I'm understanding when I deal in like the quantum realm, things of that nature, because ultimately we are made of atoms and stardust. So we exist foundationally on that level. So after going through Christianity and Buddhism and Judaism and Black Power and God only knows what else, um, I see that it's kind of like we all have this substrate. There's not very much difference between us. There's only these circumstances, but really, um, energies and things of that nature, because that's what exists at that fundamental state, which is pure potential. And so, in speaking to the I try to have conversations, and I even lay people's natal charts and things of that nature so it can be specific. We we did really try to find novel connections and a deeper language to speak in, because they speak in algorithm rhythms and things. And one of the people that I did this for, we got to the bottom line, which was that in their relationship, there is a loss of information. And this is what destroys everything: heat, basically. So it's sort of like an energetic heat. And I thought, well, why is it that the interference pattern always goes to negative? It gets rooted down deeper toward negative until you finally reach divorce. And it said that good states represent higher frequencies, which need much more stable movement. So it needs a very still environment. Therefore, since there's struggle and strife, and things come at you, and like you said, your husband is not coming, and that's a perturbation in your energy field, and so that causes decoherence, or like a loss of information. So I think couples may even get to a point where they don't even remember love about that person, because they haven't done, like you said, and I can't remember your name, so forgive me, gentlemen, but that things like regular check-ins, things like asking, "Are you all right?" Because really, what you're doing is tuning the further along a relationship goes, the more susceptible it is to entropy or decay, simply because those frequency states are harder to maintain. So it's not really the circumstances, it's actually like the energy behind it. So I think once you know that, my father always said, knowing is half the battle.
And
Then
Tracy,
we take it from that standpoint foundationally.
sorry to interrupt, Tracy. I just wanted to mention one other element in your chart that I think is relevant also for the Jacka Club's journey, and others can chime in on this. But your natal sun is right on the nadir in Libra, right on the cusp of the fourth house. And that suggests that a major part of your life journey is the search for your natural and peaceful home, the search for your soul family, the establishment of belonging and being a diplomat, honoring differences in your home with the people that you share a roof with, honoring the differences, like that idea of, like, I'm a daisy, you're a tulip, you're a dandelion. Isn't that wonderful? We're each a different flower in in life. And boy, it'd be a boring garden if it was all daisies or if it was all tulips, like that sort of thing. And so I just wanted to speak to that, because that is from my perspective, a major theme in the chart regarding to finding peace, balance, and your natural home, and that deepest sense of belonging with your soul friends, with, and when I say family, of course, it expands beyond the traditional sense of family, but with that sense of soul family, whether that's friends, that sort of thing. So I wanted to also turn it over to you all. Anything else you wanted to add with regards to this Jacka Club, so Tracy can get a real sense of the power of this system?
So I'd like to talk a little bit about Tracy's second card. You see, Tracy, you have two cards based on the day of birth, your birth card, which is your authentic self and your energy on the inside. And then there's a second card associated with you based on your date of birth, which is called the planetary ruling card. And that's similar to like your rising sign in astrology. It's how you appear to others, how you show up in the world. But it also gives you certain kinds of energy and gifts that you can wear as like a persona. And for you, based on your birthday, your second card is a seven of spades, which indicates that you are highly sensitive person, even an empath, high emotional intelligence, but you had a lot of struggles probably in order to get to that point where you're, having this emotional intelligence. But you are very sensitive to negative comments of others. So it's important for you in terms of your relationships and your families for for you to have the positivity, and so surrounding yourself with positive people versus people who are like nitpicking and nagging and things like that, and picking out your worst qualities does not go well with your seven of spade kind of energy.
Yeah, that's interesting. I know a little bit about Tracy, so I can appreciate that. But what's touching me is you have the same birthday as who I call my best friend slash wife. And she is so much like that. And it is such a deep relationship that way. And I appreciate what you brought in around couples and entropy as
Mhm.
well, and the way the energies have to learn to continue to alchemize and stay alive. Because I think families, couples are the kind of tone setters of your home, right? if the family's in some type of entropy or pattern that's gone on for generations, sometimes that can really lead to a feeling of stagnation and not really getting excited about things because you're like, oh, that's going to happen again. Then he's going to do this and she's going to do that, So I like the way you're reminding us that these rut-like things really do take our focus and our attention to be like, how do we activate these energies in a more alchemical way so that the entropy doesn't take our desires away?
Absolutely.
So very interesting. Thank you, Tracy. So, this is really like a snippet of the show. We want to start to invite others to look at the packages, but also come up and have these conversations. We're going to bring in some people we know and see how it goes. And we're just grateful of your willingness today. And is there any questions you have for anybody before we close up this segment?
Awesome. No, I'm pretty good. I really enjoyed it. It was very insightful, and very in tune and very aligned.
Nice. Well, thanks. This was great. I couldn't have worked better. Yeah, that's awesome. Thanks, Tracy. I look forward to chatting with you on the weekend and dreaming couples fishbowl stuff. So, anyone else have? Yeah. So I'm gonna think about it. Thank you so much. We'll see you again soon. Thank you, Tracy. All right, that was fun. We did it. We had a guest. How do you think? Everyone feel good about it?
Yeah. Well, thanks. Yeah. Thanks, Tracy, for coming up and for being a part of this. And it's really helpful. It's wonderful to talk to people about these systems and to hear their how these energies show up in their lives. Because, just like the color green can show up in a lot of different ways, including those beautiful glasses Grawisha has on, and trees and grass and all the rest. Like these energies can show up in a lot of different ways. And it's always interesting to hear how they might be showing up in someone's life and whether it's relevant to them. So I really appreciate, Tracy, you sharing your perspective, and it sounds like you're into some really cool stuff. So very cool.
And his girlfriend's a 10 of hearts. I wanted to get into all that, but I felt like we want to keep it to the hour show and be committed. But we'll see when we talk more about the way couples come together and the way they help each other change, what that's all about, because there does seem to be a way that the universe would like to support us to be as alive as possible. And the people we relate to are part of what activates what's half dead, right? So
it's interesting that his girlfriend's a 10 of heart, because that's the performer card. And he talked about how both of his parents were like performers. So that was kind of interesting. I'd be interested to know like the birth dates of his parents as well.
All right. Well, I'm sure we could get that from him, so we can talk to him another time. We can continue to have Tracy come up and play with that. And but the 10 of hearts, she's all about community, and this whole looking for soul family and community and things like that Rob was talking about in the chart. Do you know what I mean? Like she's the hospital, she's in there all the time. She's helping. She's with every different group. Like she's gypsy yogis. She's literally, like a gypsy yogi, but she brings such a love. Huh?
Sorry. The 10 of hearts can be the card of hospitals, but it's also their karma cards to each other as well. The 10 of hearts challenging karma card is the Jack of clubs. The supporting karma card to the Jack of clubs is 10 of hearts. So they're very destinedly connected. But like we were saying, how these cards travel together.
So there you go. That's the Family Card Table Show. That's what we wanted to teach you, is what we think about, and wondering what it's going to mean for the alchemy in our families and how we can support each other to come out of entropy into relationships that are really alive and use our gifts together to thrive. I feel really grateful for the time. And that's what we hope to do week after week, is invite you to this consideration, and hopefully you'll go to the website too. And Gina's always got some cool classes going on, so be sure to check out everybody's stuff. Rob's super for an astrology reading. I go there every year and I have so much fun. It makes it so clear. And Donna's book, if you do have children or you're a teacher and you're going to be getting ready to go back to school, it's a good time to pick up that book. So we'll do what we can to get that all in the links below. But it's a good time to start to consider those things before you return back to school, to see how these energies and awareness can start to create shifts for all of us. Rob, anything?
That's it. Yeah. No, it's fun. Thanks for tuning in.
Everybody good?
Yeah, that was
Yeah,
great.
I'm not sure how we're gonna play the final line. I keep thinking like what the tagline is. So I've got entrance songs for people I want to put in, taglines I want to put in, and I want to have a closing thing like, remember, keep your cards on the table, no under the table dealings. It only grows sad things.
There it is. You got the tagline. Yeah.
Plus, it's a card game where there really shouldn't be winners and losers.
The
right?
win-win-win. Everyone's got to be their best. We're all here as the shiniest we can be. Yeah. All right. So keep shining. See you next week. Bye.
Bye, everybody.